everybody, it's Mark Dorr. Today I'm talking about, I guess you'd call it, about being a good academic guest. For decades now, I have been asked to conferences, training sessions, a lot of different events as a speaker and a facilitator and a trainer. And gosh, it's just been wonderful. It is a fantastic experience to show up at all these different venues and work with all these different people involved in all these different things in all these different situations. I just really like it. It certainly learns some things over time, and you see things that you yourself have done, and you see things other people have done. And so I thought I'd give you some nice hints that could move you along on the way if you're going to be a good academic guest. Now I've done a lot of work as an English language specialist or academic specialist with U.S. Department of State. I've also spoken or facilitated in other capacities too, for universities, for institutions, for nonprofit organizations. And really, it comes down to a few things. Obviously, you need to know what you're talking about. But there is far more than that. Certainly one of the things you want to avoid being is a dog and pony show. In case you're not familiar with that in our parlance as teachers, that's when somebody shows up, does their little thing, and flies off, and it really doesn't apply to anything. A classic thing that I've seen in a lot of these conferences is, for example, a specialist shows up and gives a wonderful speech for researchers. Sounds very impressive for someone who's in a professor position. However, their entire audience is a bunch of local elementary school teachers, and they have no idea how any of this applies to them. But they politely clap and they say how nice it was to have them, and those people go on to do it again because nobody tells them that one of the most important things about being a good speaker is to adjust to your audience. Make sure you're talking to their needs. Find out at least some basics about what they're doing. That's perhaps the most important thing. But there are others too. Sometimes you have to check your ego at the door. It's very easy to have your ego get blown up when everyone is talking about how nice it is to have you there and giving you food and being very generous. Many people can be very generous in a lot of cultures, sometimes more generous than we're used to in the United States. But there are times when, if you're a good guest, you have to even be willing to sacrifice that ego. Now, typically when people talk about their speaking abilities, they want to show their best side. In this case, I'm actually going to tell you about an instance when I gave one of my worst speeches, and it was the best thing I could do. How's that happen? Well, I had a good speech lined up, and at this point it's okay for me to talk about this. It's not going to cause a problem for anybody. But for reasons I don't need to really get into, the people in charge needed me to not give a great speech, and to speak very slowly, and to drag things out. I did, and I gave one of the worst speeches of my life. And people were very kind and clapped me out, and I was told by the person in charge it was great. But some honest people came up later and said things like, you're a great trainer, but you're just not a good speaker, are you? I just held my tongue, because sometimes as a good guest, the people who brought you there need you to help with certain situations. And that might mean that you have to take a hit for the team just like that. And it's okay. It's part of your job. Last is remembering that you can give back too. Now, obviously, you're providing your expertise, you're providing your time, you're providing your skills. But it doesn't hurt to do a very simple thing like bring some presents along. I remember one time I went to Saudi Arabia, and there were other specialists who were speaking at this conference and doing some trainings. And I was the only one who'd brought some simple little gifts to give people. And in fact, I ended up handing some of mine out to the other ones because they realized that was a good idea. They were getting gifts from people, but they hadn't brought anything to give back. So just remembering to give even a simple little gift really means something. It shows that you recognize the effort they've put in too, and you won't just be receiving as well. This makes me think of another mistake I made along the way. At one point, I wasn't even speaking. I was just to show up and be one of the dignitaries there. I was given a big box of chocolates, and I just held it there like an idiot. And it ended up causing problems with people until somebody reminded me, it would be a good idea to just open that box and share it with people. So, of course, I did. A little late to really fix things, but I certainly learned a lesson from that. So there are a few ideas that can really make the difference between you being a speaker, and maybe a speaker once, and being a good speaker and a good guest and asked to a variety of venues. If that's the direction you want to go, I wish you good luck.